Greetings, everyone. Very good morning. What do we have today? It's Thursday. Happy Thursday. Who are these people? These are real people, real drivers, people that make real deliveries of food with Uber Eats. And I've never seen this type of setup where the guy in the middle, we know him, Dara, actually creates an environment to reach out and talk to real people like you and I, right? And the company's been going for more than 10 years. We didn't see this from Travis. We haven't seen these type of actions or attempts by Dara. And this may, ladies and gentlemen, be a step in the right direction. I feel that maybe a weekly address or a bi-weekly address with real people, maybe even more than 5 people, maybe 6, 7. I think if you put too many people in the room, then it becomes a little bit too loud and the individuals don't get their say. But I've listened to this video, and I'm going to put the link to this video because they all have very unique, special stories, right? Every one of them. Latasha, William, Randy, Gail, Allison have real stories like you and I. And you know that song by Depeche Mode, right? People are people. We are people that simply try our best, perform a service, expect to get paid for it, and give a lot to a company. And maybe, I'm just saying maybe, slowly, he's starting to acknowledge that. Honestly, in the first 1 or 2 minutes of the interview, he looked very uncomfortable, but he started warming up. And I think it's a role he could start enjoying. And I think it's a role that he could start improving, because if the culture of the company doesn't change, this company is doomed, right? It cannot be, hey, we will not talk to you. We'll sort this out by lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. No, the culture has to be one of respect both ways. You got to respect your superiors, and the superiors have to respect what the workforce is doing in order to create a healthy environment. That's how people work together with people, right? And I hope that through the many videos of prompting them to reach out, to have that real conversation with the workers would happen, and it looks like it's finally happening, right? John Zimmer, I believe, a couple of weeks ago did one. Again, also looked very, very uncomfortable in that role. Way more uncomfortable, in fact, than Dara. And, had I taken a guess, I would have thought that Dara would not be as good as John Zimmer. It was actually the other way around. It was actually that he handled the matter way better than John Zimmer. Now, John Zimmer is also doing something today. So they must have had phone lines and say, look, we're going to do press releases in the New York Times. I'm going to go and harry the drivers' rideshare channel. Both companies send out emails. Both CEOs and go out and facilitate interviews. So this is really a desperate attempt to obviously connect with the public, with the drivers, and say, hey, you know what, back us, we need your support. We are in trouble, and they're in a lot of trouble. They know it, right? So they're trying to sort of play the safe card here. But where am I going with the story? Very, very simple. If you are able to do this, right? If you are able to do this, if you are able to get better and better at doing this weekly, every 2 weeks, if you are able to change your culture, you also have the ability to walk down there to Javier Becerra's office, to the legal offices in London at the UK courts, the people that are suing you. You have the ability to bring a team and walk down to the California Labor Commissioner and say, listen, our approach, we made a mistake, it was wrong, right? the tone should not be, hey, we're going to shut you down. Because the Attorney General doesn't care. He's like, okay, go shut down, right? And if you want to make money again, come talk to us. And maybe we'll open up the gates again for you. But if you want to go shut down, go shut down. Don't threaten us. That type of language does not help anyone. It doesn't help the company. It doesn't help the state. It doesn't help the people, right? The only language right now that works, that's called diplomacy, right? And sometimes in life, we have to admit that we effed up, that we screwed up. And I think this is a time where he and the people at Lyft have a golden opportunity to say and admit, hey, we messed up. We screwed up, right? Our tone should have rather been, how can we work with you to find this third way that they're suddenly talking about? I call it the hybrid way, the gig hybrid way, which is another term for the third way, right? So my advice to Dara, I truly, truly think this was pretty well done. I truly feel that he got more and more and more comfortable in that role, and that he can, if he truly tries, he can. But where he needs to really try with his team, right? And it's not about putting a guy like Tony West out there and saying, no, drivers are not our company, right? It's now about saving face. It's now about walking down there to Hill Street. They're down in Los Angeles, downtown in Hill Street, calling up and say, hey, you know what? We want a meeting with Javier Becerra. We want a meeting with the California Labor Commissioner. We want a meeting with the people in London, right? And talk. Just like you're now able to learn. It's the first time you've done it in 10 years. And I applaud you. I really do. I really do. Maybe this is a role that he never wanted to do. Maybe he felt extremely uncomfortable in this position, right? Maybe he preferred to hide behind his degrees and operate from an office, but interact as little as possible with the workforce. Well, that doesn't work, right? We are, as this lady says, sometimes she doesn't make much money because she gets into conversations with people in Seattle, right? And she enjoys that. She gets a lot of satisfaction about building up relations. So she, if anyone in this entire conversation, understood that or understands that relationship building is huge. Other things happen from relationship building besides just bringing that meal to the door, right? You can form other relations. You can start networking. So this is the perfect opportunity for him to start this weekly or bi-weekly. I wouldn't make it monthly. I would make it a minimum of every 2 weeks, getting a panel of 5, maybe 6 people, maybe another 1 or 2 faces in this room, and having conversations, no matter how uncomfortable, right? Because even in our live feed, we are able to talk about very, very uncomfortable things. We can talk about the joy and the pain, right? We have the ability to be extremely open and share. That's why we have open comments, right? Sometimes it goes a little bit south, just like his conversations are going to go a little bit south. You're going to have some people in the room that have a lot of anger towards the company. Okay, acknowledge that anger and say, okay, what lies beneath that anger? Not listening to us, mistreating us, not paying us well, ruling us with algorithms. A lot of people have problems with that. So I feel like it is a step in the right direction. But more than that, if you have the ability to do this, then you also have the ability to do some door knocking, right? You need to go with your people down to these people and say, listen, you have a law. That's what the state wanted. We sued you. We sued everybody on the list. We realized that this strategy is not really working well for Uber and Lyft. We realize that we are cornered here. Is there any way, is there any possibility we can work something out, right? And I'll bet you one thing, they'll be receptive to that tone. They will be all ears, and I'll say, okay, well, where do we start? Now, Dara, if you're listening, I know that the attorneys scrutinize my videos. They've said it on the phone. My dear friend, other dear special friend, Randall Heimovich, he says, yeah, we know you well. We watch your videos. So I'm sure Dara might not be watching today, but maybe someone at Uber is watching today, right? And this is the time to listen. This is the time to listen and learn and change your culture and say, hey, we may have effed up a few times, right? And it does not help. It doesn't paint the right picture if you go out and put $110 million into what you call a war chest, in what you call a battle, a fight. You're choosing these words, war chest, battle, fight. In that type of language, there's only one victor. One survives, one dies, right? If you want to adopt a new language where both survive, you say to yourself, hey, instead of us firing missiles at each other and either wiping both sides out or wiping one side out, why don't we find a healthy way forward to coexist, to live, to work together? What do you want, state? What is the minimum you want out of this? What do we want out of this? Right? The company. Most importantly, what does the driver want out of this? So the step that both Uber and Lyft are just too afraid to make is rattle the cage of the riders, the passengers, to increase those rates. Because there has been this battle and war between Uber and Lyft to constantly discount, subsidize, and drive the prices down. And by that battle, driving the prices down, all they do is they take away and hurt the worker, the driver. That battle between those two companies is unhealthy. So knowing that, can we diffuse that for a second? Can maybe Uber and Lyft come together and say, hey, you know what? Let's not subsidize, discount. Why don't we collectively both say to the rider, to the passenger, the only way this is going to work, the only way we can move forward, both companies, together with the drivers, together with the law, together with the states, and that is increase your rates, right? I've heard many people in the feed saying Dustin was right in saying they should have always left it at 75-25. It's a soundbite that people have texted me. And Dustin is 150% correct in saying that. But everyone has been saying that, right? Drivers have been saying that. My channel, other channels, that the 75-25 split with Travis originally in the beginning kept the people quiet and happy, right? Kept them happy. You didn't have the protests. You didn't have the marches. You didn't have the strikes. You didn't have the battles on social media because the people said, okay, we can socially accept these rates. But somewhere in the equation, investors, the company, got more and more greedy. They wanted more and more of the bottom line. And they were too afraid, right? They made a big mistake. In my eyes, I truly believe this, that they cozied up to the rider, they cozied up to the investor, and they were too afraid to rattle the feathers of the passenger or the rider and say, hey, you know what? We really have to increase your rates by 20%. And ladies and gentlemen, even if you go out there, if there can be a meeting of the minds between Uber and Lyft, and both sides can actually agree upon across the board, pumping it up 15-20%, so we can make all of this happen, so we can make all of this work, so we can diffuse all of these lawsuits, so we can have several happy parties here. Win, state, company, workers, right? The riders have to be willing to accept a big increase. Now, Harry asked that question to Dara. Would you be willing to increase the rates of the rider? You got to go back to that soundbite. It was somewhere in the 29 minutes. And you should have just seen his body language. It was like, oh, he was trying to get out of that conversation. You could see he's very uncomfortable in those type of tough questions. It would probably be Harry's toughest question. And he felt very uncomfortable because he did not want to, on air, upset his base, his passengers and his riders. And he wiggled his way out. And Harry allowed him to wiggle his way out. Right? I would have handled it a little bit different. I said, I want a definite answer. Yes or no. Do we need to raise the rates for passengers, riders to make this work? And then he'll try and wiggle and I say, Dara, answer my question, right? Do we need to raise the rates? The answer, ladies and gentlemen, to make this all work is yes. And even if you raise those rates, even if you raise the rates for passengers, / riders, whatever you want to call them, it's not the end of the world. They have shown, and I want people in Texas, in Florida, in New York to understand that California passengers have shown, right, if you put the multiplier on 1.5, 2, because you could set your rates for a short while now, they have been accepting those rates, meaning they know they have the most discounted fare ever, cheaper than any shuttle or taxi, or even cheaper than a bus out there, right? And they are willing to pay more because they understand how essential, how important we really are. So I don't feel that there's going to be a ton of resistance from riders when you up their rates. And the people that bark, scream, and cry are really not the people that you want. But those are not the riders that Uber wants, because those are the troublemakers that always pick up the phone, right? But I think that across the board, in order to make a shift in the right direction, we got to come up 20%, right? Well, they got to be brave enough to go back to the 75-25 split and up the rates for the riders by 20%, right? They have to be brave enough to go down to Hill Street, knock on AG's door, Javier Becerra. They're going to knock on the California Commissioner's Law. They're going to knock on the London representative's door and say, listen, we want to speak and work this out. So here's our game plan. We're going to raise the rates for the riders by 20%. That additional 20% now that we are making, and we'll understand that we're going to lose some riders in the process. Uber and Lyft, we've agreed we're going to come up with the rates. Out of that extra 20%, now we're going to allocate this much, right, towards health benefits, this much towards whatever, fixing roads, helping the state, towards taxes, whatever it is. But you cannot continue operating at the lowest of the lowest of the low. It's not working. Subsidizing, discounting, battling Uber and Lyft, driving it all down is leading to disaster. Right? So I want to acknowledge all the people in the house with Samir, Jose, Condor, William, Phil, Ultra Testosterone. How are you guys? Now, I've been rambling on for 20 minutes, and it's not going to be a long video. I'm going to cut it fairly short. I hope that someone on the other side is listening, and if they can do this, if Dara can do this, he can do so much more, right? Because this indicates a culture shift. Don't make this like an orchestrated PR campaign where you're just trying to keep on pushing yes and yes and yes on Proposition 22, right? This is about finding that true third way, middle ground. And I completely hear and understand the people that do not want to become employees. I've admitted over and over again, I would never want to become an employee of these guys. But what I also do understand is that the lie The lie for 10 years that we are independent contractors is also not true, because we may now in California be a little bit more independent than our brothers and sisters next door in Nevada, because they give us certain freedoms, but we are still not true independent contractors. So why don't we take the best of the best, right? The freedom to choose when to drive, the freedom to choose with whom we wish to drive, right? The freedom to set our rates and let the markets dictate, the freedom to choose our destination. And then we have those set of variables, and now we go over to the Attorney General and say, okay, Attorney General, what do you want out of this, right? Well, I need some health benefits built in there. I need a protection net built in there. I need to make sure that you guys are there for the people during the pandemic, that there's some money paid in to protect people that get sick during the pandemic. Okay, great. We have these set of variables. We have these set of variables. Let's marry the two. Let's marry and merge them and come up with what he calls the third way, what I call the hybrid way, right? And that means giving up from both sides. That Javier Becerra, if you're listening in, I've already told your Deputy Attorney General, you've got to give up a little bit. You cannot staunchly say these individuals need to be employees. It's not going to work. Dara, you cannot staunchly say that we are independent contractors and it needs to stay like this, and we're going to sprinkle a couple of little sprinkles on the cake as an extra. It's not going to work. You guys have to work together, and you have to listen to these people. These are real people. Latasha, William, Allison, Gail, Randy are real people. If they tell you something, be all ears, take all the notes, because you will listen and you will learn. Just like when I get into these rooms, live feeds, I learn something every single day. I sometimes even learn sides from a person that I've never ever seen before, right? And you may be having conversations in the room for a long, long time, and then suddenly you learn something new about them, right? So be out, put yourself out there, make this happen. Action Realtor, cool. Fellow Realtor, how are you? Which city are you a Realtor? Says they had one chance to correct their poor public image. Truthfully, Uber has zero respect for customers. Uber has zero respect for drivers. Uber has zero respect for the law. And yes, you're 100% right in saying that, right? There is no trust, right? It's probably rather uncomfortable for these people to be on this type of show, right? But the trust has evaporated big time, right? I don't know how much this guy would have to do to remotely win 10% of trust back. We probably have to climb many, many mountains, right? But I want to address what Action Realtor says. If they are taking this step, if they can acknowledge that they effed up big time with all these fires that they're lighting, legal fires, if they can walk in and say, hey, we're ready to practice true diplomacy, let's work out a deal, that will not be 100% what we are looking for, right? You'll never achieve the 100%, but we can start getting towards a healthy and better lifestyle where you put a couple of extra bucks in your pocket or your bank account, and where you know if there's a rainy day, you can fall back on that money and you are protected. That'll let us sleep better at night. But we will never achieve the 100% part, right? I know that. It's very often a pipe dream. So, Mohammed, good to see you here. Action Realtor, thank you for your contributions. Ultra Testosterone. Yeah, Enron, remember Enron? Enron, the walls came tumbling down, right? And you're right, usually with Ponzi schemes, multi-level marketing, very few of them pan out, because they usually are Ponzi schemes that eventually crumble. These guys have the ability to make something out of the company. The culture has to change. Ed Steigelmeyer's in the house. Good to see you. Mark, Biss in London. Great to see you. A percentage increase to drivers simultaneously, so riders pay more, drivers get more, and Uber gets more. As at some point you reach the sweet number, also a 75-25 reversal immediately. I like it. And you know what? It's not unreasonable. I've just marched people through that pretty much a similar type of proposal. It's not unachievable, but you have to be brave enough. You have to be bold enough to stand up against the rider, and you have to have that meeting with your competitor and say, listen, we are screwing up the market. We are hurting taxi drivers. We are killing shuttle companies, right? The approach cannot be, you know what, we will battle, we will let them bleed, we will let them suffer, we will let them drown, we will let them dehydrate their competitors by subsidizing, and by discounting. It is so wrong on every level, right? Be a player and be a healthy player, right? Look at the automotive industry. It's very competitive. Whether it's electric cars, hybrid cars, gas cars, trucks, SUVs, it's so competitive. And because it's so competitive, there's so many different prices out there, so many different choices out there that we can pick and choose what we want. If we can afford that car, we go for it. If we want something economic, we have so many choices. But what they are doing, Uber and Lyft, is that they are killing the other choices. They are killing the industry, the taxi industry. They are killing the shuttle industry by using that money, intentionally running up deficits each quarter by discounting, subsidizing, until everyone around them dies. That culture has to stop. And the reason why it needs to stop, because that war that you're fighting out there against your competitors is on our backs. You're taking away from us to fight your battle. Ultra Testosterone says, it's over, bro. All right, my friends, that's it. I'm going to genuinely keep it at 30 minutes today. Long day, much to do. You're right, he doesn't care about drivers, but if he cares to stay in the game, if he cares about the other industries and wants to be perceived as a good leader, I think he's going to have to change his way. And maybe, ladies and gentlemen, this is a start, right? Samir says Uber even stole money from Saudi Arabia, $3 billion in investment. Well, they didn't steal the money. They got the money from that fund, from the Saudi investment fund, right? So there's conditions, right? You can't go over to Saudi Arabia and steal $3 billion with a dead man. They gave that money with conditions, right? Jose says Dara K needs to get kicked by a rugby player. Can you imagine a rugby player like Kwacha, South African, or who's the other guy? Jesus. Can you imagine him getting tackled by some of the Samoans or New Zealanders or Springbok forwards? It would be very painful. Sonny Rivero's in the house. People always complain that taxis were so expensive, but that is what it costs to have drivers have all benefits, right? But you know, the one good thing, Sonny, with the taxis now is that they have to up their game as well, right? You can't, I mean, a lot of people still smoke in the car, but you can't have insane taxi rates, not have an app. Thank God they're all moving towards apps. Oh, my friend, Germany is in the house. Oliver Thieme, wie geht's dir, mein Junge? Look at that guy. Look who walked in, everyone. Oliver Teamer over there, and he could tell you stories about our youth out in the wild with elephants, lions, sleeping out in the wild, making barbecues in the wild while knowing there are lions and they're around you. Ask Oliver. Times, good times. Let the good times roll. You see, when Oliver appears in the room, there he is, Oliver Teamer. He's in Germany. Oliver, tell the room we're in Germany. Oh, by the way, let me show you my buddy. He sent me a great picture, Ollie, with your permission. There he is, legend. That's Ollie, living the life. Man, could we tell you stories? Him and I should do a live feed together and tell you our adventures. And we have adventures, crazy adventures in the wild. Good stuff. Louis Power Mix is in the house. Oliver's in Regensburg in Germany. You guys can look that up. That's down in the southern Germany, right, Ollie? Cool, genuine Phil says, Dara down to his last strike to do something immediately. They're desperate. Obviously, these are all very, very desperate. This shows the level of desperation, right? I like it. Eric Live says, Birmingham, Alabama, meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Oh my goodness, you just made me hungry. And cigars, very cool. Nifty 50s in the house. Yes, Oliver says down in Bavaria, down in the south, Regensburg. And Europe is definitely both Oliver and I have lived on the African continent and on the European continent for a long, long time. Both of I know that they are very, very different, Africa and Europe, right? But you build your stories and you build your life, right? Oliver got married. I'm getting married, right? We did our schooling together in Johannesburg, South Africa. And the treasure chest of stories, my friend, if we can open that one day for our house, would be amazing. Samia says, can you please focus of the years of the driver life making less money? Samia, I don't know how long you've known me, but since I've had my channel and since the Uber pirates started looting our money, I've been extremely vocal. So maybe you're a newcomer, maybe you need to go back on my videos, but that's been my fight, right? About the conditions and the money and standing up to the wrongs. But Dara, if you're listening, why don't you send me 10 questions? Why don't you send me 10 questions that you want me to ask you? And allow me to modify those 10 questions slightly. I'll stay on the topic of those 10 questions, but allow me to modify them, because it would be unfair to send me 10 questions and say, this is the only thing you can ask me, and that's it. And they're all very, very safe questions. But I would be willing to take 10 questions, and this is probably the one room where, you know, different people talk about different subjects on YouTube, right? You have, for example, the Rideshare Hub that sells a very fluffy, glamorous story. Young guy, he's still learning a lot, right? With a lot of young people in there, a lot of young, pretty faces. But if you look at the videos, it's usually 75% dislikes, 25% likes, okay? Acknowledge him, has a ton of subscribers, but it's a certain type of channel. Then you have Dustin's channel. There's a lot of sensationalism, a lot of crazy stories, like a lot of drama stories that happen in cars, a lot of dash cam footage, and people like it. And you get a lot of views, and you get a lot of good topics, and you get a lot of good input and feedback from people. And you have my channel, which has morphed from once selling the dream, right? Because there was a dream. There was a 75-25 dream. And then always sticking true to the cause that you can always climb the ladder in these companies and then go your own way private. That's been my channel. But more than that, in the last 2 years, I've also morphed into a channel to highlight the piracy, the looting that these guys are doing, right? And I feel that that is where that's where I can make the most change. I'm not actively recruiting Uber or Lyft drivers. I'm now highlighting and pushing for change. And I'm comfortable in those shoes. So we all have our stories. Kevin the entrepreneur gets a lot of sound bites, Amazon and that, and puts a great spin on those news stories. Harry the rideshare guy with an engineering brain, super smart guy, creates a lot of surveys, invites a lot of good speakers in, talks about real good topics, but tends to play it a little bit safely. Jay Crudeur, the more I listen to him, the more I like him. I did ding him once, but I like his channel. I like his videos. The Simple Driver, that's more like watching Star Wars, a beautiful cut and edited video, right? Showing you little ways and years how to make blogs and how to make money, right? A nice sort of healthy contribution to people, showing them how to make additional money with very, very well edited videos, right? So we all have our channels. We all, I believe, have your backs, right? We all give you a platform. And if I could give the guy some advice, hop around on those channels and tap into those audiences. I welcome St. Mark Analysis. I did over 25,000 rides in less than 3 years, including 112 in one day. In one day, and 500 in 1 week. I should be in on any driver discussions with Dara. Writing a book at the moment too. I can help Uber change. That's wonderful. That's wow. I've never seen any accomplishment like that. I truly respect. I really do. Those numbers are true. You should be writing a book. If those numbers all add up and are true, you should write a book. And I am 100% sure. You know what? St. Mark, let me tell you. That would be a brilliant book. How I Can Help Uber Change. That should be your title. Written by St. Mark, a person that did 25,000 rides in 3 years, setting the following records: 112 trips in 1 day, 500 in 1 week. And again, I'd want to see those numbers. You know, you obviously have to bring proof into your book. But if that is who you are, you should write a book. Really. In fact, you should open your own channel. I would become a subscriber because I have nothing but respect for that hard work. St. Mark's, as it was on unofficial St. Patrick's Day in Champaign, Illinois, U of Illinois campus is #1 party school in the nation. Cool. You've got good stories, my friend. Oh, you have great stories. I'm sure you have a lot of student stories. I have one funny one from UCLA I might tell one day. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. We're all girls in my car, 6 girls. It got nuts. The NWO SAC says I did 33 in 11 hours. 112 in 12 hours is just a troll. I don't think he said he did them in 12 hours. He may have done 112 between both platforms. I'm not sure. But something tells me that sounds like 24 hours and not 12 hours. Here we go. St. Mark, he says, I drove 24 hours straight. That's what I was saying, right? So, yes, both platforms. That to me, I hope you have those screenshots, my friend, because if you have those screenshots on that official day, St. Patrick's Day, I'll do a story. You send me your picture, your photo, and those 2 screenshots that add up to 112. and I'll be promoting your book all day long, my friend. Well, here we go. That's an open invite to have a video made. I find those numbers so impressive that I would literally dedicate an entire live feed or video to the guy, right? I find that beyond impressive. So the only story I can counter with St. Mark is when we talk numbers, right? Is on one day probably making over $2,500 in one day, right? And setting my personal best for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that was $4,900 at Coachella, with a lot of private parties and also like you working around the clock. I do not know how many Red Bulls and coffees I drank Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. I lost track. I was in a zone, going. And after all was said and done, after all the numbers came in, tips, blah, 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 I had made $4,900 in those 72 hours, right? Another record maybe that I put out there. I don't know if it's a record, but obviously people can come forward and say, definitely beat that, but let's raise the bar here. You raised the bar. Herbert says hard worker. Respect. Oliver Tima says, Torsten, was great hearing you again. Got to run. Good, keep well, and let's chat next week. Would be great. Have a great day. Cool. And Oliver, if you can think of some crazy story from the past, a blast from the past, please bring it into the room. Thank you, Oliver. Another crazy number that I want to throw out there, where people could say, hey, I did better. But that was very close to the $40,000 mark in 1 month on referrals. On referring Uber and Lyft drivers in 1 month. My best month was just under the $40,000 mark. And that excludes the trips, right? So maybe with the trips included, definitely over 40. But my biggest month on referrals once was about 40,000. Oh, Samir, you don't have to apologize to me and say I was angry at you. You don't. It's good, man. We friends, right? We friends. The only people I tend to kick out, and people know me, I'm very black or white. I don't move in the gray zone, right? You know, I like blue skies and sunshine. I don't mind rain and hail, but I don't move in this in-between zone. The only people I would kick out, and I've probably unsubscribed or kicked about 10 people out, is when people get really nasty with their racist remarks and say such vile language, where I can see there's so much hatred that I do not want them in my channel, right? So I deactivate them, right? Those are the only people I'll tend to not communicate with or get rid of. But Samir, you and I, we're there. Wicked Hustle Guy says, what's going on, everyone? Yes, and at that time, definitely killing it. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. They were the gravy times. Laura, what are you doing back? You're supposed to be working.
I have to take Liam to get his books from school.
So Laura's supposed to be at BMW working. She escaped from the offices. And she, you know what she does very well is she works late. She gives like 150% to her company. She's having a meltdown over there. Good, go take care of the kids. Mohammed, Jose Almeida, Yeah, people know the royal flush, and I can be a pretty hardcore bastard when I do the royal flush, but hey, well deserved. Yeah. Dude. Samir honestly says, I'm angry at Uber and Lyft that they stole money from us in their smart way. I wasted 5 years of my life making less money. So, you know, that's you expressing yourself, right? And you have the right to do so. So that anger, as you admitted, is definitely geared towards Uber and Lyft for manipulating you, for using you. You probably feel very used, right? The good thing is you acknowledge that emotion and you move on and you take it and you make something better out of it. San Diego in the house. Maurice Samuels, we welcome you. Mohammed says if we stay together, we can do a good deal with Uber, which is good for Uber and for the driver, and have you stay further and poured so we cannot do anything, and you will. Driver will stay together, we can do anything we want, independent contractors, prices change, or any other change on Uber. What I'm understanding from what you're telling me is that if we work together, we can hash out a good deal. And that's true. Hey! Vegas in the house. Payman Ali just walked in. And Nash, Brooklyn, we welcome you. What's up? It's been a good conversation. It's been a healthy conversation. Actually, a very positive conversation. Right? We're not really bashing here today. We're looking for all the positives, and we're trying to drum up as many positives as we can and steer the ship into nice, smooth waters. And it saddens me, by the way, we're talking about ships. Did you guys see that oil spill in Mauritius? Now, Mauritius is just off the African coast. I went to those 3 islands, Seychelles, Mauritius, and Réunion. They're all French, sort of ex-French owned islands, right? They're just off the coast of Africa. Stunningly, stunningly, stunningly beautiful. It was crystal clear blue waters, powder white sand, and along comes a tanker, breaks in half and spills all this oil into this piece of paradise. But, oh God, it saddens me. Why? Because I've been at that lagoon, I've been to those beaches, and to see the pictures, wow. Why would a tanker go so close to an island and run onto the corals? Does not make any sense to me. Wicked Hustle Guy says, how did Dara reach out besides the letter? So he wrote the letter, personalized letter. He wrote the piece in the Times, in the New York Times, right? Saying, I am the Uber CEO. He went on Harry's show, right? And then he started these feeds, all within a matter of 48 hours. Ilutele says, hello everyone. Nash Brooklyn says, yeah, been to Senegal and West. Yeah, Senegal is beautiful. Same awesome white sandy beaches. And then also very close to Senegal is Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. In French, they say Côte d'Ivoire. Beautiful. Stunning, 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 beautiful. In fact, in some areas, there's absolutely no wind. So they don't want you to walk because they don't want you to leave footprints, because those would be footprints in the sand. There's no wind. No wind on some of those beaches. All right, friends. Cool. I'm happy. Man, I'm getting a couple of gray hairs here, my friends. A couple of gray hairs coming in. Woo! We get older. Hopefully we get wiser. Howard Johnson's in the house. Be careful of the Dara trick. Oh, I'm aware of the Dara trick. No worries. I call him out. He tries to get all of you to vote yes on Prop 22. After he gets what he wants, then he goes and does the same thing before. And then you got to really listen to how it's worked, because he's on the money there, right? He has his manipulating ways and his little tricks, his party tricks, and wants you to vote yes on 22. And I believe then they go straight back to their own old tactics. So this is a bill written by the companies. They spend $110 million. So I just ask you to vote no on 22. But more importantly, before November, these guys literally need to go down and hash it out, right? Payman Ali says, what I appreciate the most about Harry's shows are his surveys. Correct. Although they aren't very scientific, I'd like to see all the channels incorporating the idea. I mean, his surveys, I've made many, many videos on his surveys. He goes out there, he has that audience, he asks very simple questions sometimes tough questions, collects all the data and puts it out there. And that really, I'm sure Payman would agree with me, is always a masterpiece, right? Disseminating information, putting it out in charts, pies, answers, this percentage, this percentage, this Uber, this Lyft. And it's very, very helpful. And the media love it. And he gets a lot of media attention when he does those surveys, and he grows and grows his base. Very, very smart way. And yes, it would be a good idea if more of the other YouTubers incorporated and created such type of survey. That should be a challenge to us all. I like that. Lachelle Anderson is in the house. She says, that behind you looks like she got shocked by lightning. Which one? Which one? Shocked by lightning, very, very frightening indeed. Galileo, 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 pick out all the world. I think, are you mentioning this girl here? The one that put a finger in the voltage socket? No, she's a sweetheart. I like her. We're not judging her. We're not judging her for her haircut. She's on the show and she is telling it as it is. She just talks. I like it. Hukaman is in the house. Good morning, Hukaman. Hot here in the Rocket City. Peace and love to all of you. Wonderful. The lady, yes, yes. Yeah, good. But we're not judging her, right? But different folks, different strokes. But do yourself a favor. Watch this segment. 39 minutes long. A lot of equal talk time for each person. She tells one very, very moving story. He's a great dad, this guy. Everyone has their story. She has a great story. You've got to listen to the 39 minutes. It's totally worth it. F Lamb's in the house. Yeah, Payman Ali. So we can say X percentage of professors' views think X, Y, Z. Oh, you want the survey to go in that direction. Okay, cool. C. Watson says, no judgment, I agree. I'm with you on that one, Lachelle. C. Watson says, hi, it's raining in Disney World, still very slow. More hotels closing this week. Wow, getting bad down there. Payman says, I believe there are still many drivers who are sympathetic to Uber's business model, but it's difficult to know for sure. There's a lot of people out there, Payman, that are working really, really smart in the right areas at the right times, making good money. I spoke to a guy yesterday who operates out of Calabasas, who also has his private company set up, right? He went through the entire process of TCP, and he told me the challenges during the pandemic. But what I noticed in the conversation, how smart he was working with the setting the rates. He was setting his own rates and doing very, very well, right? And what I just find sad is that other neighboring states cannot do the same, because if you would allow Nevada, if you would allow Arizona or New Mexico or Alabama or Georgia to set their own rates, that people could actually make more money. Why could they make more money? Because the passengers are willing to pay more. It's proven, it's shown. I've spoken to enough people in California that are setting their rates, and the passengers are accepting those rates. Even if you're putting 1.5, right, you're making more money, right? If you had the ability to, on a busy Saturday night, to set your rates at 2.5 or 3 all night long, you'd be driving people on a busy Saturday night in Vegas, right? You should also have the ability as drivers here to make that same money. So that's the one thing I would request: get rid of the double standards. If you do it for Cali, do it for all, right? Wicked Hustle guy on a Saturday night in Hollywood, 100%. You know, you're down there you're down there on Santa Monica Boulevard, close to Robertson, where all the party is going on. You set your rate at multiplier 3. I will guarantee you, even if it's a short trip, you're going to be making way, way, way more money than before. And allow the market to dictate the rates. You know, you're not going to get away with, like, a guy showed a screenshot of making $300 because he set 5x and it was a long trip. That was probably someone who desperately needed a trip and he could not find a driver, so he accepted it. Probably a little bit pissed off about the fact that he took 5x. But anyway, the guy made a lot of money. That's not going to happen all day long. But realistically, 1.5, 2, maybe 2.5 will happen very often, especially over there in West Hollywood, especially in Vegas on a Saturday night, all night long. So Payman Ali correctly says California drivers are unique right now. The reports I've heard is Uber's recent changes are working for them. Yes, they are, but those changes are not available in other markets. Correct. I've just said that. And that's, I have an issue with that, because that again just shows double standards. What's good for you is not good for the others. So that's part of the culture, right? That's part of the culture, is that the double standard culture, right? I am pretty sure that my friends in Vegas and those Vegas people talk to the Cali people, and vice versa. You get all the information. People share Facebook. And when you hear someone who really milking it here during the pandemic because they are charging the multiplier, good for them. They're finally making some money, but it should also be for those Nevada drivers. It should also be for those Colorado drivers, right? That's where I have an issue with the culture of double standards, right? This sort of like double standard. 57 minutes, 58 minutes. Yep. Well, they won't shut down California. No, that to me, I think, is the bluff of the century. I don't think they'll shut down. I really don't. You shut down. You have riders moving away. You built the company for 10 years. You alienate your riders. Your drivers go and drive for someone else. Your drivers move on to a different job, right? Because drivers have to have a job. So suddenly the driver goes and works for Grubber or Postmates or Instacart and says, screw them, I'm not going back. They shut down. They're not going to shut down. Rick Nelson is in the house. I saw Rick Nelson. Where did I see yesterday? In Long Beach. That's correct. No, that they say it will last for months. Okay. That's the biggest scare tactic. Oh, we'll shut it down for months. Oh, they want to shut it down for months. They'll do so much damage. Are they going to shut it down for months and then sacrifice that market and say, oh, well, if we shut it down for months, the public will definitely vote yes on 22. That's a gamble. It's a huge gamble. I wouldn't gamble on that. Maybe Dara wants to roll the dice. Go make money, Payman. Good to see you. All right, 10 seconds to go. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. 60 minutes are up. Guys, have an amazing, amazing day. All of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great, great input today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully the maestro is listening. God bless you all. Have a good one. Thank you over there. Appreciate you.